Naming molecular compounds. You might think that naming molecular compounds would be as simple as naming ionic compounds. For ionic compounds, the name of the compound is simply the name of the positive ion, followed by the name of the negative ion. In a molecular compound, all the atoms get filled shells, which seems rather simple. There is a complication, however. That complication is the fact that there are often a number of different ways in which two elements can combine in order to fill the valence shells of the atoms of both elements. For example, sulfur and oxygen form two compounds, and carbon and oxygen also form two compounds. Nitrogen and oxygen have 6 different compounds. And carbon and hydrogen form so many that a separate branch of chemistry, called organic chemistry, is needed to discuss them. This makes naming molecular compounds different from naming ionic compounds. To name an ionic compound, we simply give the names of the ions. There is only one way the two ions can combine to make a neutral compound, so the names are enough to tell us what the formula is. However, we cannot simply give the names of the elements to name a molecular compound because that would not tell us which compound we were talking about. Which compound could we call nitrogen oxide? In one sense, they all could be called nitrogen oxide because all of them are compounds between nitrogen and oxygen. But then how could we tell one from the other? The way we distinguish one molecular compound from another is to use prefixes with the name of each element to indicate how many atoms of each element are present in the molecule. The prefixes we use are as follows. Mono means 1. Di means 2. Tri means 3. Tetra means 4. Penta means 5. Hexa means 6. Hepta, 7. Octa, 8. Nona, 9. And deca, 10. Because they are so commonly used, you must memorize the prefixes for 1 through 6. The others are used much less often with simple compounds. Pause the video here to write down this list. Let's look at this naming of molecular compounds by looking at the 6 compounds between nitrogen and oxygen. Here they are, along with their names. Nitrogen monoxide, dinitrogen monoxide, nitrogen dioxide, dinitrogen trioxide, dinitrogen tetroxide, and dinitrogen pentoxide. What do we notice in these names? I hope that there are several things. Perhaps the first thing to notice is that the name of the compound uses the name of the first element completely, but changes the ending of the name of the second element to IDE. So the name of the compound N2S3 is dinitrogen trisulfide. And the name of the compound C2N2 is dicarbon dinitride. The second thing to notice is that the prefix indicating how many atoms are present in the molecule is added to each name except when there is only one of the first element. So the compound CO2 would be called carbon dioxide. and the compound C3H8 would be called tricarbon octahydride. The third thing to notice is that the ending of the prefix is sometimes dropped when the name of the element begins with a vowel, mostly oxygen. So the compound P2O5 would be called diphosphorus pentoxide, and the compound C2H6 would be called dicarbon hexahydride. One other very important thing to note is that these prefixes are used only for compounds that are made of two nonmetals. If there are three or more elements, we use other ways of naming the compound. So here's a quick summary of the rules for naming binary molecular compounds. Keep the name of the first element, but change the ending of the second element. Add a prefix to show the number of atoms of each element. And drop the last vowel of the prefix if it is appropriate. Pause the video to write these down if you wish. There are three commonly seen types of formulas that look like molecular compounds but are not named using the prefixes. First, any compound that begins with NH4 is not molecular but ionic. The well-known ion NH4+ is one you should recognize. Any molecular compound with H as the first element can be named as an ionic compound, with H+ as the positive ion. These compounds are acids and have other common names we will not learn here. Molecules that are organic are named using a different system of nomenclature, which we will not learn in this course. We will still deal with small binary organic molecules with prefixes as an exercise in using the prefixes, but the names we come up with are not the real names of the compounds.